Good evening, all of you.
Good evening, ma'am.
So we are going to do our social studies classes today. And last class we were doing forest and wild resources. Sorry, forest and wildlife resources. Okay. Did you all read the chapter? We'll do one thing. We'll do a quick revision from the starting, and then we will move forward. And it's already time, so we are not going to wait for others to join in. If they will join, they'll join in. Okay. So let me share screen. Okay, you all see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So we are going to talk about forest and wildlife resources. And we had started by flora and fauna. Like you should see, our India is there are many living species on the earth. Like even we are included in it. We are a species of the earth. We have animals, we have plants, we have birds. Okay, so biodiversity in India is especially in India we have all types of biodiversity, and especially we are going to divide our species into flora and fauna. Like flora means it is plants, all plant species on earth. Okay, that is plant life is flora, and all the animal life is called the fauna. Okay, now let's talk about flora and fauna in India. Now India is one of the richest countries in the terms of biodiversity. Means we have different types of flora and we have different types of fauna in found in India. There is possibly twice or thrice the number yet to be discovered. Means we have not discovered all the flora and fauna in our country, because and we are heavily dependent on our flora and fauna for our everyday life. We are dependent on them for food, for clothes, for raw materials, medicines, and our balanced environment, right? But of course, like human has become greedy and people have become insensitive towards forest and wildlife, and thus there is many problems that has been arised. And if this continues, many species of trees and animals will become extinct. Means we will lose certain breeds of plants and certain breeds of animals. So we need to conserve these the forest and the wildlife. Why
Good evening.
conservation is important? Yes, somebody wants to say something.
Good evening, ma'am.
Very good evening to you. So, like last class, we were doing forest and wildlife resources. We are doing a quick revision so that all of you all can get a niche of what we were doing. Okay, so we need to conserve our forest and our wildlife. Okay, why do we need to conserve? First of all, we need the ecological diversity in and our life support system. That is, we need all these. We need to conserve the forest and wildlife for water, for air, and for soil. Also, we need to preserve the genetic diversity of plants. Or else our future generation will not know what were the plants and what were the animals that were here, existing on the earth. So for better growth and species and breeding, example, dependent on traditional crop varieties, we are dependent on traditional crop varieties and heavily dependent on fishes. Okay, now with the steps for the conservation, there are certain steps that was taken by the government. Okay, that was in 1972, the World Life Protection Act was started. Okay, yeah, genetic diversity is nothing but various species. Okay, various types of species that might become extinct in the coming time. So we need to protect them. So in 1972, wildlife protection was started. Wildlife Protection Act was made. Okay, under this, what was this act about? This was in 1972. Just remember the date. This consisted of various provisions for protecting habitats of wildlife. Then all India list, a list was made. Okay, a list was made of protected species. Okay, and remaining population of some endangered species was protected by banning hunting and trading. So hunting and trading was banned. In further, after 1972, in 1980 and 1986, several butterflies, moths, beetles, and one type of dragonfly was also listed in the protected species. Because see, these butterflies and moths and beetles, also especially I can say honeybees, are very important in our forest life. Okay, in 1991, for the first time, plants were also added for the list. Also, plants were added in 1991, and starting with 6 species. Okay. Okay, now conversation of forest and wildlife, the establishment of protective institutes where we have about wildlife sanctuaries, about 567 wildlife sanctuaries. We have biosphere reserves, about 18 biosphere reserves. We have national parks, about 106 national parks. Okay, these are not only government, these are state owned or these are community owned. The government launched projects. There were certain projects that the government launched to protect specific animals like tiger. For the tiger, there was a project tiger. The Asiatic lion was also protected. For gharial, we have there was a conservation project. Black buck is also a project was started for protecting black buck. For rhinoceros, also the snow leopard. We will not study about others, but we will study the tiger in detail. Okay. Now the Project Tiger was one of the most important wildlife species in the faunal web. For this is the main on the top list of the faunas. Now the tiger population had declined in the last 100 years. In 1870, this is the figure. In 1870, we have about 55,000. This was also not very much, but we had only 55,000. But it had reduced in 1970. Now what we have 2024. You can imagine what is going on with the population. So we have in 1970 we have only 1,827 about 1,827 tigers left. So it was a call for protecting the tigers. So what was the steps taken? First of all, what was the reason for the decline? That was a poaching for trade. When tiger skin was very expensive, so it was traded, and the shrinking habitat. Now you can imagine when there are no forests, where are the tigers going to stay? So because of shrinking, because of cutting down the trees, and the humans becoming greedy for mining and for increasing the habitat, the forest was shrinking, and thus their habitat was shrinking. Then there was also no prey because there was these animals were hunted down by humans itself. So the animals, the tigers did not have anything to eat. Okay, like there are many species of deers and cows and the buffaloes that the tigers eat. Okay, though these preys were already hunted by humans, so the tigers did not have anything to eat. And the growing population of humans, this was a great reason. The humans began to cut down trees and forests, and they began to increase their habitat. So in 1973, government launched the Project Tiger to protect the tiger. Now, major tiger reserves that was started in India. You can just name some this. That is the Sariska Wildlife Sanctuary, that is in Rajasthan. Bandhavgarh National Park, that is in Madhya Pradesh. Priyar Tiger Reserve, that is in Kerala. Corbett National Park, that is in Uttarakhand. Manas Tiger Reserve, that is in Assam. Sundarban National Park, that is in West Bengal. Have any of you all been to any national park for a vacation or anything?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you go?
Ma'am, in Hyderabad there is this national park, like somewhere. It's not some Mrugavani National Park.
Uh-huh. What is the name?
Mrugavani National Park, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So did you see tigers over there?
Not tigers, but I've seen a few animals like deers and a few other animals.
Okay, okay, good, good.
We
So
went to
there is
Bandipur,
where?
Karnataka, Western Ghats.
Karnataka also there is a national park. Yeah, but the most famous, I think, there is a national park. I think in
Bandipur
Gujarat.
Tiger Reserve.
Yeah,
Oh, in Gujarat, it's Gir, right?
it's real life. And I've been to this Corbett National Park, and there are several forests over there. And I managed to see a tiger just cross a little in the crossing the road. So, of course, they are highly preserved, and mostly you get to see footprints. The guide they show you. See, this is a footprint of a tiger. The tiger has crossed. See, this is a footprint of a rhinoceros that has crossed. So, the animals are very rarely seen because they want to live away from the humans, and they prefer to live in a dense forest. Anyway, these national parks and reserves are there. Just a few have been named here. And now we'll talk about further. We'll talk about the types and distribution of forest and wildlife. So forests have been divided into three. There are reserve forests, protected forests, and unclassed forests. Okay. So we'll talk about the reserve forest first. This is owned by the government, and human activities are not allowed. There is no hunting. Of course, there is no cutting down of trees, no hunting, and no activities are allowed over there. So this is considered as the most valuable forest area, and this is present in Jammu Kashmir, West Bengal, Maharashtra, and Uttarakhand. Okay, next are the protected forests. This is also owned by the government, but local people, the tribal people that belong to the forest, allowed to they are allowed to collect fuel and graze their livestock. Okay, so but still they are monitored by the government, and these are found in large scale, and one third of the total forest area in India is covered with protected forests. These are present in Rajasthan, Haryana, Bihar, and Punjab. The third category, we have unclassed forests. These are managed by private as well. Okay, as a government agencies. All human activities are allowed here. They are allowed to collect wood. They are allowed to do some farming. They are allowed to cut down weed. They are allowed to graze their animals also. So they consist of wastelands, and they are not very agriculturable, and these are present in the northeast states and parts of Gujarat, where you can see a lot of tourists are also allowed in these places that are unclassed forests. So you have you have forest safaris, and you have elephant rides and all that. And jeep safaris are also allowed here in these places for the tourists. So the reserve forest plus the protected forest are the permanent forest. Okay, now we get to see the maximum permanent forest in Madhya Pradesh. These are 75% forest. Okay, now other than the government, we have communities that are protecting the forest and wildlife. We can talk about some communities here, and the main community here we are going to talk about some communities, that is the Sadiska Tiger Reserve. Okay, now these villages, although the government had formed their own rule, the government was going to do mining into the tiger reserve, but the locals over there, they fought against the miners, and they opposed the mining, and because of this the government was had forced the miners to, the villagers had fought against the mining by citing the Wildlife Protection Act. Okay, and in many areas, villagers themselves are protecting habitats and explicitly rejecting government involvement. They are not allowing the government to. The government was, of course, looking for a profitable business by mining, making a margin by mining. But the locals over there, they protected the forest. Okay, now we such another community is Alwar district of Rajasthan. The inhabitants of 5 villages in the Alwar district of Rajasthan have declared 1200 hectares of forest as the Bhairav Dev Dhakav sanctuary, declaring their own set of rules and regulations which do not allow hunting and are protecting the wildlife against any outside encroachment. Means the villagers, people of these 5 villages, they are standing up for the sanctuary. So that is called, that is about 1200 hectares in land, and it's called Bhairav Thakav Sanctuary. Next such a community is the Chipko movement, or you can say the Chipko Andolan. The indigenous communities of the Himalayan region, they successfully carried the Chipko animals. You can see in the picture, the women, they are standing by the tree, protecting it. They were not, they stood there for a long period to protect the trees, successfully resisted deforestation, and they also did afforestation. Afforestation means they planted trees, okay, to increase the wildlife. Another such a community is we talk about is Beej Bachao Andolan, that is the Save the Seed. Means they began in Hanwal River Valley, that is Tehri in Uttarakhand. Okay, now this movement was started by some activists led by Vijay Jardhari, value traditional knowledge and wisdom. This is, they practice traditional agriculture, means they grew the traditional plants, and they preserve the traditional, the spelling is wrong, just correct it, it is traditional seeds and forests. Okay, now communities took a major step for conservation. They like made a joint forest management, that is GMC. The program was found has been in formal existence since 1988, when the state of Odisha passed the first resolution for JFM, that is the Joint Forest Management. Now the government, they took gave the responsibility. The government itself gave the responsibility to those communities to protect the forest. Okay, and the forest can use non-timber resources. They could only use those forests that has like fallen on the ground, you can say, or that has been on the ground. So they were the community, the government gave responsibility to the communities for the management. They were also sacred groves. Now, such forests which we have not been told to protect, but still we protect them because we worship them as gods and goddesses. We call such groves sacred groves. Now, you know, there are many types of trees and plants that people in our culture are worshipping. So, like there is an example here in Chota Nagpur region, Mundas and Santal community, they worship and they protect the Mahua and Kadamba trees. Okay, we'll talk about the Chota Nagpur region. They are worshipping and protecting the Mahua and Kadamba trees. Okay, another such tribals of Odisha and Bihar worship tamarind, that is the, you can say, imli and mango trees, and they have a they worship these trees during weddings. Okay, so to many of us, and you can say many Indians, they for them there is the people and the banyan tree, you can say the burger tree, are considered sacred. Okay, you can see many people worshipping and the trees of banyan and also the people tree. Also, there are many other places that are sacred to our community. That is spring, mountain peaks, and animals. Okay, also monkeys and langurs and macaws of many types of monkeys are also they are kind of worshipped, and they are not they are not hunted because they are a part of the temple devotees. Okay, so you can see many monkeys and cows around the temples because of this. Okay, another sacred is the Bishnoi community of Rajasthan. They are also protecting and worshipping the black buck, the chinkara, nilgai, and peacocks. Like you can see, these are all protected by the government and also by this community, by the Bishnoi community. So there is a lot of contribution of the community in protecting nature and their resources. There is a saying of Gautam Buddha: the tree is a peculiar organism of unlimited kindness and benevolence and makes no demand for its sustenance. Okay, the extend generously the products of its life activity. Means they can say the tree also gives shadow to the man who is cutting it down. It affords protections to all being, offering shade even to the axeman who destroy it. The person who is even cutting the tree provides shadow to them also, shade to them also. Okay, so that is all about the reader, about you can say I have given you the summary, and we will do a little bit of reading. We'll do a little bit of reading for better understanding. Let's talk about Project Tiger. Will somebody read for me? Anybody? Aryan, read this. Project Tiger.
Tiger is one of the key wildlife species in the faunal web. In 1973, the authorities realized that the tiger population had dwindled to 1,827 from an estimated 55,000 at the turn of the century. The major threats to tiger population are numerous, such as poaching for trade, shrinking habitat, depletion of prey-based species, growing human population, etc. The trade of tiger skins and the use of the bones in traditional medicines, especially in the Asian countries, left the tiger population on the verge of extinction. Since India and Nepal provide habitat to about two-thirds of the surviving tiger population in the world, these two nations became prime targets for poaching and illegal trading.
Illegal trading, Project Tiger. Continue. Hello.
Project Tiger, one of the well publicized wildlife campaigns in the world, was launched in 1973. The tiger conservation has been viewed not only as an effort to save an endangered species, but with equal importance as a means of preserving biotypes of sizable magnitude. Corbett National Park in Uttarakhand, Sundarbans National Park in West Bengal, Bandhavgarh National Park in Madhya Pradesh, Saraska Wildlife Sanctuary in Rajasthan, Manas Tiger Reserve in Assam, and Periyar Tiger Reserve in Kerala are some of the tiger reserves of India.
Okay. Somebody else, please join reading the conservation projects are now focusing in on biodiversity. Let me ask. Let me ask Huria. Do you want to read?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please start reading. The conservation
The
projects are
conservation
now focusing. Yeah.
the conservation projects are now focusing on biodiversity rather than on a few of its components. There is now a more intensive search for different conservation measures. Increasingly, even insects are beginning to find a place in conservation planning. In the notification under Wildlife Act of 1980 and 1986, several hundred butterflies, moths, beetles, and one dragonfly have been added to the list of protected species. In 1991, for the first time, plants were also added to the list, starting with 6 species.
Plants are also added. Okay, now let's read types of distribution of forest and wildlife resources. Just read.
Types and distribution of forest and wildlife resources. Even if we want to conserve our vast forest and wildlife resources, it is rather difficult to manage, control, and regulate them. In India,
Mm.
much of its forest and wildlife resources are either owned or managed by the government through the forest department or other government departments. These are classified under the following categories. Reserved forests. More than half of the total forest land has been declared reserved forests. Reserved forests are regarded as the most valuable as far as the conservation of forest and wildlife resources are concerned. Protected forests. Almost one-third of the total forest area is protected forest, as declared by the Forest Department. This forest land are protected from any further depletion. Unclassed forests. These are other forests and wastelands belonging to both government and private individuals and communities. Reserved and protected forests are also referred to as permanent forest estates, maintained for the purpose of producing timber and other forest produce and for protective reasons. Madhya Pradesh has the largest area under permanent forests, constituting 75% of its total forest area. Jammu and Kashmir, Andhra Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, and Maharashtra have large percentages of reserved forests of its total forest areas, whereas Bihar, Haryana, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Odisha, Rajasthan have a bulk of 800 protected forests.
Let me.
All northeastern states and parts of Gujarat have a very high percentage of their forests as unclassed forests managed by local communities.
Okay, let's pick somebody else to read. Uh, Moksha, Surya, anybody? Pranay, you want to read?
Ma'am, from where shall I read? Conservation, community and
Community
conservation.
and conservation, yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Uh, Conservation strategies are not new in our country. We often ignore that in India, forests are also home to some of the traditional communities. In some areas of India, local communities are struggling to conserve these habitats, along with government officials recognizing that only this will secure their own long term livelihood. In Sariska, a tiger reserve, Rajasthan, villagers have fought against mining by citing the Wildlife Protection Act. In many areas, villages themselves are protecting habitats and explicitly rejecting government involvement. The inhabitants of 5 villages in Alwar district of Rajasthan have declared 1,200 hectares of forest as. Can you scroll?
Bhairodev, Dhaka
Can you
Township.
scroll?
Okay, so you can this set on read from here.
Own set of rules and regulations which do not allow hunting and are protecting the wildlife against any outside encroachments.
Yeah,
The
continue.
famous Chipko movement in the Himalayas has not only successfully resisted, shown that community afforestations with the indigenous species can be
Afforestation. Can you tell me what is the meaning of afforestation? That is means they planted trees.
planting trees on a large scale.
Yeah.
Can be enormously successful. Attempts to revive the traditional conservation methods or developing new methods of ecological farming are now widespread. Farmers and citizens groups like Beach Bachao Andolan in Tehri and Navdanya have shown that adequate levels of diversified production with the use of synthetic chemicals are possible and economically viable.
Yeah. In India, joint forest management, JFM. Continue.
In India, Forest Management's JFM program furnishes a good example for involving local communities in the management and restoration of degraded
Forest.
forest. The program has been in formal existence since 1988 when the state of Odisha passed the first resolution for joint forest management. JFM depends on the formation of local village institutions that undertake protection activities mostly on degraded forest land managed by the forest departments. In return, the members of these communities are entitled to intermediary benefits like non-timber forest producers and share in the timber harvested by successful protection.
The clear lesson.
The clear lesson from the dynamics of both environmental destruction and reconstruction in India is that local communities everywhere have to be involved in some kind of natural resource management. Um, but there is still a long way to go before local communities are at the center stage in
Good.
decision making accept only those economic or developmental activities that are people centric, environment friendly, and economically rewarding.
Yeah. So we have also mentioned about the saying from Gautam Buddha. Okay. The tree is a peculiar organism. This may come as a in your exam. You can they might ask you to uh, talk about the various communities. Okay, now let us take the questions here. Multiple choice questions. Which of the following conservation strategies do not directly involve community participation? Let me take the question answers here. Okay. Agricultural expansion, large scale development projects, grazing and fuel wood collection. Which of these statements is not a valid reason for the depreciation of flora and fauna? What is not, anybody can give me the answer?
See, ma'am.
Yeah, grazing and fuel wood collection. This is not, this is a is not a valid reason for depletion. Now, which of the following conservation strategies do not directly involve community participation? Somebody give me the
Demarcation.
answer.
D.
Yeah, it is demarcation of wildlife sanctuaries. Okay, now we have matched the following. This I will send it to you. You can do it on yourself. Let me take the long questions here. Okay. Now, what is biodiversity? Why is biodiversity important for human life? Now, biodiversity refers to the variety of life forms found on Earth. Now, it is a measure of variation at the ecosystem, species, and genetic level. Biodiversity is abundant in tropical areas. Tropical areas cover 10% of the Earth's surface and they host 90% of the world species. Contribution of biodiversity as human life, we have as agriculture. Okay, a variety of plant species meet our needs for food. Its contribution to business and industry, leisure activities, ecological process. Okay, just you have to understand this. Now, how have human activities affected the depletion of flora and fauna? Like you can, like I had done here, flora and fauna. Okay, so various river valleys projects have affected the flora and fauna. Where river valley projects, okay, illegal mining. What are the reasons for depletion? What is, you can say, decline? Too many development projects, okay, for leisure activities, you can say for tourism. Too many human activities in the forest areas due to rising population, okay. So there are 4 points to this answer. Answer the following questions in about 120 words. We have to talk about the first, they have asked for Chipko movement. Describe how communities have conserved and protected forest and wildlife in India. We have the Chipko movement, okay, and you can talk about the Santhas and Mundas and the Sariska Tiger Reserve and the Alwar district, okay, and the Bhairadev Daku Sanctuary. I will send you the presentation. You can pick up points from there, okay. Write a note on good practices towards conserving, like how we should conserve the forest and wildlife. So you have to talk about the JFM program, okay, and that was formed in 1988, okay. So this was the question and answers, okay. All of you all understand. If you have any doubts, any questions, please let me know. I'm ready for answering any question that you have.
No,
No, ma'am. No questions.
Okay. So I will send you the question and answers. I will also send you the presentation. Okay. And I want you all, your homework is that you have to read the chapter. I did a small reading that was about deforestation and all that. But you have to read the entire chapter from the start to the end. Okay. And then try and attempt the question answer. Write the answers in your own words. Pick up points from the presentation or the note that I'm going to send you. Okay.
Yes,
Okay, ma'am.
ma'am.
If you have no doubt, then I will end the class.
No,
Bye,
ma'am.
No
everybody.
doubt.
Thank you,
Bye.
ma'am.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Bye. Good night.
bye, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.